Hey guys, what's going on? TheRiaya here with part 3 of 4 for free video editors going into 2017. This one will be focusing on Blender, the basics on how to set it up, use it, then of course the pros and cons just like I did with Shotcut. So again, this video is going to be long. Actually, this will probably be the longest out of the 4 of them, so bear with me and let's get this started. Alright, here we are, inside Blender, version 2.78. So if you're watching this in a little later date, and hopefully they don't have too many changes, but they hopefully will have some changes that would be better, of course, in the future. But this is version 2.78, and this is what it looks like when you first load it up. It's got the full viewport and everything for the 3D animation, so obviously we need to make changes. Now you could either select here and go to the video editing one, and just make some subtle changes here, but I have a different way that I do it, and I'm just going to show that up real quick. So here it is back at the beginning. The bottom here at the timeline, you're going to go to the top right of it. Click here, drag up. And you're going to go to the top right again of where the timeline is. Click here and drag over to the left. Then you're going to go to the bottom left over here to change which selection is here. And you're going to change this over to File Browser. Up here, change it from, instead of your list, being thumbnails, and from normal to tiny. Now it doesn't look like it gives you a lot of room here, but we're gonna fix that and by dragging this over here. And obviously you can see where you can select the directory, so I'm gonna select my directory and then hit T, and that'll drop that out, and then you can go wherever you need to for wherever your files are and so forth. So obviously this still isn't done fully, so we're going to go back to the middle, to the timeline at the top right. Click here, drag that down. So you got the timeline at the bottom, and then with the new timeline on the bottom left of that, we're going to swap this over to Video Sequence Editor. Now this just gives you the base video sequence. Obviously that doesn't help, you need an actual monitor to get everything done. So then you set this over right here to the third. See, there's just the monitor, just the sequence, and this is the sequence editor and the monitor together, and then you could drag and change that size. So that is done. Couple other things you're going to be needing to do on the timeline down here again itself. Go over to view, call it to show seconds, and under playback, frame dropping, and audio scrubbing. Now, the reason I have frame dropping, I'll explain later on. It'll probably be under the cons section, but that's just what it is. On the right side here, we left the rendering and everything here because you're going to be needing to use this, obviously, when you want to export a project. So normally it's at 1920 by 1080, 50%. That means half resolution. Just move that to the full resolution and to whatever resolution of the video you're editing. You used to have to edit the frame rate personally yourself, but now whenever you drag a video sequence into Blender, it will automatically change the frame rate. So I'm going to leave this here and I'll show you it when I drag something in there. Almost done with the setup. Now, over here is the output for the format. Obviously, we're not going to be exporting it as an actual image, so we're going to swap this over, H.264, set it to RGB, because if you leave it on RGBA, it'll actually really mess up your video export when you're done. And of course, set it to the bitrate. If you just want best quality, lossless, or I manually set it up to 120,000 with a GOP size of 1. And then I just use my own editor. Or you could leave it at whatever GOP, change it to whatever GOP of course you want and whatnot. But also, after that, make sure to change to the audio codec. I just use PCM. So, we have this base setup. I think that pretty much covers it all. Yeah, that covers it. You can set it to just draw waveform if you want, but it'll take time to actually have that up. So, go here, you hit 1. And that'll bring it all the way back to the start of the video sequence. So you find your video file, and you drag it on there, Like I said before, right here, see, change it to 60 FPS. So when I start playing, it'll actually be at the frame rate that it needs to be. Back this up, and I'm going to show you some quick cuts. Now, you may notice I didn't go to an in and out or something, because Blender doesn't have a set in and out thing without third-party plugins. Personally, it doesn't bother me to just drag it out myself. I find it just easier to just work with it that way, and it was kind of annoying with the third-party plugins. But if you get them working for you, then congrats, that's awesome. The video itself is kind of zoomed in, so in order to fix the viewpoint of the monitor view of the video, you're going to move your cursor up to that and hit home. And as you can see, it sets that up to where it is. Now you can see the endpoint here is set to 250 frames, so obviously that doesn't give us a lot to work with. So now with this set, where with your mouse cursor on the video sequencer itself, hit page up and it'll go to the very end. Then you just go to the timeline, hit E for end, and then home, and that'll set it for the duration of the whole video that you have. Like, you might not need to focus on that until you're done with all your edits and things, unless you want to do that just to make sure you can play through. But again, we'll get into that more later. Now we're gonna get into cutting this up to actually start with the video edit. Now you may notice I'm not changing around any of the keys or going into that for the key mapping, because I want to do it for just to show you how to quickly get it up and running and to get that done. So edits, again, can be annoying as long as you know where you're going in each of your videos and such, and shouldn't be too difficult. Like, so if I say took this file, drag it over, again, up and oh, actually no, that went to the end of the first one. I guess go to the, each time you hit page up, it goes to the end point or start point of the previous one, as you can see from this. So all the way edited, hit end. If I want to edit something out, I can quickly just jump around to where I need, then of course make the subtle adjustments. Delete that. Not going. Start jumping around cutting there. There's no 5 seconds here on here. 3, 2, 1, 0, and there we go. Now to start actual cutting, select the audio and video you want cut or need cut. You hit K. Sorry. And it will actually keep selected the side that you cut from with the cursor to where it is on the timeline. So if I'm on the right of where it's paused at, and hit K, and there it cuts there. And then on the left side you hit K, that cuts there. Go on to that cut and you move that over. Now here comes more of the annoying part. Like for this is simple, I just hit A to select all, or you right click on one, then you hold down shift and you right click the other, you hit G and you drag it over. You just try dragging from here, it'll just expand it back out from where you cut it from. So starts on frame 1. There you go. Where it starts. Now we're gonna do a couple quick edits on here just to show the actual effects and such. So hit N, it'll bring up the actual edit section, and I can start hitting up like say a pasty, changing that around, but we're not going to do that yet because we're going to add some transformations, and anything you add for an edit clip after it, it will not carry over, so it's best to just leave this alone. Now before I also do this, we're going to go to the very bottom, activate automatic keyframe insertion for objects and bones. Now whenever you make a change, or so to the scene, it'll actually automatically add it. So if you want to keep this where it's at, you just hit I and it'll highlight it into yellow, as you can see there, and do that. But I'm gonna take that off. First thing I'm going to do is go to the effect strip and add a transformation. I want to do that from this right here, so hold on. And the transformation is added, and we're going to go to 61, so we know our 60 frames in, so we know. We're set to add 1 second of changes. So I over the opacity here, as you can see, I hit page down on the sequencer, that brings it back to the beginning there, and hit 0, and as you can see right here, it automatically added that keyframe. Anywhere in between will be green, and if you want to swap between actual changes, you hit up and down on the arrow key, so that makes it actually quite nice and neat. There's one other thing I'm going to be changing on here. Do it actually. We're gonna advance to just 1 minute. 10 minutes there. Seconds. Like, no way. There. And home. That's who. We'll do 6,000 at 1 minute and 40 seconds. Select these. K, X, delete. And we got this here, so I want to go back 60 frames. So it's 5940. This is one of the more annoying things about this. Is this doesn't actually have seconds. It would be nice if they added that in the future releases. When you're doing this, it'll actually swap this over to seconds as well, so you can. But obviously, you can see it up here. Got the timeline that you can see here. Let's quickly move around, but it would just make it nicer if you had the actual set for hours, minutes, seconds, and frames, or just hours, seconds, hours, minutes, seconds, frames. Minutes, seconds, at the very least, and that would be cool. Alright, I'm gonna add a transformation. The reason why I wanted the transformation is because you cannot do scaling without that. We're gonna change the scale here. We're gonna leave it it's proper size here. Tell it to move up and just put it to 0.5. Now, you can see I went to a much higher detail on this than the previous one. And it's specifically because Blender is kind of a pain to work with in that sense. I mean, it's great in what you can do with it, but you need to understand what is actually. Now, the last part I'm going to go over is actually just the setting up of multiple effect strips. Like, you got the transformation here. You can't just go here and select, say, but to add effect strip, then say speed control, because that'll mess things up. What you need to do is select the transformation, add, and go to speed control there, and then you can modify how you wish the speed to actually be played as, and multiply the speed and so forth. If you did it from here, it'll just add another one on top of already editing it, and that'll just make a big giant mess out of it. Start playing. I'm not changing it. I just wanted to show you. This is why we have frame dropping on. Is it doesn't use full proper hardware acceleration like Shotcut, or of course the number one I'm going to be covering, which is DaVinci Resolve. So that pretty much covers up the basic setups and overview on Blender as a video editor. Now to go into the pros of using Blender. Blender is extremely versatile, to say the very least. I just show you some basic ways to quick cut, trim, add opacities, and transformation. Like transformation, you could change the scale size of it. Actually change it. Nah, I didn't change it, so I'm gonna move up here. Yeah, I did change it. Okay. So, pros, extremely versatile. You can pretty much do anything you want with it, and you can easily change the color grading. Like go into the color management, change exposure, gamma. You could use your own personal curve setup and such on here. And it works wonderful like that. Obviously, the filters work properly, unlike Shotcut, where once in a while they'll give out and then you have to quit and then reload the project and, you know, start redoing all that. So, it's really all I'd have to say about the cons, wouldn't it? Or the pros, wouldn't it? It's just a great overall rounded editor for quick edits, setups, and get out what you want done. I used to use Blender for a while. I mean, I went over to Shotcut over Blender just for the fact that it is a little bit faster and nicer to see your edits there. Though, if you know exactly what you're doing and you get it all set up, then you just watch it through quickly with the thing here, even with the frame drops, and just to verify, or if you are really that paranoid, go frame by frame, of course, for that to get that done. Now, what would I have to say about cons on this? Several to be listed. One, of course, I already mentioned, the hardware acceleration for viewing what you're editing up isn't very good. It really isn't any, so if you're going to be editing any videos on here, make sure it's obviously, first off, on a solid state drive, which you should be doing anyway for anything like high definition or above. But this really does have issues. If I import my usual logo thing that I have twirl around, it's actually at 4K. So even with using by proxies on here, it has many problems. I mean, if you're editing this at least 1080p video on solid state drive, when you have simple things like fade-ins and fade-outs, it really won't have any problems whatsoever playing it. But when you add the transformations and everything, that's what really bogs this down. 2, exporting. H.264 exporting. I don't know what it is with Blender, but it exports it at only using half my processing power. It's one of the oddest things I've ever seen. I've tried seeing about how you could export it faster and things like that. The only real solution is to honestly set this to H.264, go to codec, and just use the lossless HuffUV instead. But it would be nice to see them make it so H.264 exporting is faster. It's just odd that it's actually as crappy as it is. Using AAC audio, even at 192, which should be really good quality for stereo, I've noticed that it seems to have some deterioration. Maybe maybe it's just me and maybe I'm just hearing things. But that's just a side note thing to add for the... I think I mentioned the in and outs earlier. I think I might have mentioned in case I didn't, I'm sorry. If I already mentioned, I'm just going to go over it again. It'd be nice to have an actual way to set in and out points for video that you wish to edit up on here. But I digress. This is a 3D editor. This is meant for quick edits again, for anything that you've done with the 3D animations and such, and so you can put the PNGs or whatever image file format you use, so you can slap it all together, and that's what it's for. But that's all I could really say about this, I guess. As a video editor, this is video 3 of 4. Nothing else really that I can think of. I'm just gonna go look over real quick. There's no other real cons other than the biggest one being the massive slowdown that you get while editing. So as long as you know how to set that up, it's great, and you don't mind it just taking a little while longer for H.264 to export, and it works actually pretty fine. And that wraps up video 3 of 4 for free video editors going into 2017. I kind of rambled on a little bit, and of course it's kind of annoying to get this whole scene set up and everything, but that really just covers it. And like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it. Leave a comment below if you have something to say, and as always, thank you for watching my video, and I look forward to bringing you video 4 of 4, which is going to be DaVinci Resolve. And there's a reason why I have it as number 1, and I hope to see you back here soon.